University of Essex Medical School. He joins us now. Doctor, good evening. Welcome.
Hello, good evening.
How many more times do we have to go through this? I've seen you in the media a few times today. You must be getting fed up with it. The last caller, because I like to get straight to the point, as you know, without too much messing around. The last caller rang up and had a go at me and said, what is all this fuss about? There's 0.999% of people die from this COVID thing. It's not anywhere near as important as people saying, I'm only 40, I'm not having the vaccine, and I'm not a threat to anyone. How do you answer people like this?
Well, it's very interesting, James, because I have been doing this business of immunization advice and things for over 30 years. So if you remember, because both of us are old enough to remember the MMR issues.
Sadly, you're right.
Very sad. And I used to talk to the mothers, and I used to have the time, the energy, and hear their fears, and then take them on their journey, and then allowed them to make their decision. But what has happened since those early quiet days is we've got social media, which has greater influence upon them than mainline information. And I am at a loss to understand why you would listen to something that's not verified compared to something that is official, honest, truthful, sincere, in their favor.
But you see, there are some people around the world medically trained who are talking out loud, and this is because of social media now, which we're going to have to live with because all of us rely on it to a certain extent. But it enables people to say whatever they want.
Indeed.
And there are people spreading a lot of misinformation and fake news.
Indeed.
And unfortunately, there are a few people who believe it.
And not only that, the other observation I have made, being an Indian, is the Indian diaspora are often influenced by what is on WhatsApp. And then they take WhatsApp as the truth. And they often pass it by me to say, what do you think, doctor? And I say, come on, it's absolute nonsense. Why are you even forwarding this? And I think this is a new world order. And somehow we've got to come
I think you're right.
Yes.
But they're calling us the New World Order. I'm a tool of the government, just trotting out every night exactly what the government sent me in the post today to say, which of course is complete rubbish. But this is, people believe this sort of thing. This is, and I can't remember for some considerable time, people have not taken it into their minds. Like, we didn't have this with various other vaccines that have been important and various other. For some reason, it's because it was developed so quickly. This last bloke I spoke to on the phone said, yeah, but it hasn't been tested and I'm not going to be a guinea pig. How do you refute that?
So I say this, look, these vaccines are absolutely fantastic in that now they've been given in billions of doses, and by and large, they have been found to be safe. Furthermore, no corners were cut because this is independent international verification. The only things that was enabled, which enabled then the vaccines to be made in record time, is we already had the templates, and the templates were further to us working on, for example, the Ebola vaccines. And I, who work in universities and similar departments where all this research takes place, I'm fully aware of why it takes so long. Ethical approval takes months and months and months. Recruiting people to your first trial, second trial, third trial takes years and years and years because it depends on the funding. In this case, all the funding was made available. All those gates that caused delays were opened. And as a result, because this was a global pandemic, the phase 1, 2, 3 trial, all the testing, etc., was done in record time. And that's why we have the vaccines, not because we cut corners.
You were on a television show I happened to catch a bit of earlier this evening with a man, I don't know who he is, asking the most ridiculously stupid questions I've ever heard. In fact, I think it was you. I had to turn off. And one of them was, oh, well, back in, the times of the Great Plague and various other things, nobody reacted this way. Nobody got locked down. And I'm thinking, what an idiot. There wasn't any social media. People couldn't spread the message that easily. During the Black Death, there were all kinds of problems all over the country. People being shipped, dead bodies being shipped out of towns and buried in the country. And it was appalling. And of course, the population was infinitely smaller than it is now.
Yes.
And some people in the media really need to wake up a little bit, because some of them are actually spreading doubt in people's minds too.
I think so, James. And, this is very worrisome because honesty and sincerity are very important. And if you want a few days worth of fame and you get that by spreading lies, you're doing the public a big disservice, and it will come to bite them. But unfortunately, the damage is done by the time it catches up with them. And Andrew Wakefield is an example of, the MMR fiasco. We are still living with it today.
Well, that's a very, very good point, actually, you make. And I think he came out and said something about the I might be wrong, the COVID vaccination as well, but
yes, he did.
I'm not sure. He did, didn't he?
Yes,
You'd think he'd have learned his lesson by now. There are going to be people who will be badly affected by this vaccination. As you know, I have cancer. I'm on quite a strong chemotherapy regime. I've been on for a year or so now. And I asked my consultant, and he actually explained how part of the vaccine has already been used as well against certain cancers. But there are some cancers that you can't take the vaccine for.
Yes.
And, everybody should make sure they talk to a doctor before they do it. And when you go to one of these clinics, there are doctors there too.
Yes. Yes. Not only that, you see, people say, I look it up on Google, but remember, we spend at least minimum of 5 years as undergraduates learning about all manner of things. So you're a doctor for a reason, and you've gone through exam after exam almost every month. So these people, doctors, highly trained, highly screened, very knowledgeable, use them. Google has not got all the answers for you.
In fact, quite frankly, Google could make you even more sort of worried, I would think, because people just go on to social media and without being challenged at all, which is why, of course, programs like this is always a good thing, because you can challenge stuff. But there is no challenge. And if a doctor rings me and says, right, we've got to stop now, I found something really bad about it, great. Then tell me about it. I still won't believe you, because the amount of people who've been vaccinated across the world now, and the amount of people who have died from the vaccine is
less than
a handful.
Yes.
I mean, let me tell you today, another 91,743 COVID cases were reported. But the death rate, and this is good news, is going down. Because a lot of people in this country are getting vaccinated. The anti-vaxxers have very loud voices and need to be put in their place, which is what I'm doing quite a lot of the time. But today there have been 44 deaths, which is tragic for the people concerned. But compared with the amount of people who have got and had COVID, and a lot of people are saying, well, not many people get it very badly. It doesn't kill very many people. But it does kill quite a lot of people. And, the percentage of the people in hospital, I believe, are not vaccinated.
That is very true. And my colleagues in the hospitals do tell me that the majority of the cases that they're treating right now are those who are not immunized or under-immunized. And that is such a shame, because this is clearly, very clearly, a vaccine preventable disease.
Can I just wait 1 second while I take a short break, Doctor? We'll come right back after this if you have time. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Honest talk, fighting talk,
Kyle Talk.
talk radio.
Jeremy Kyle.
Live at Drive.
Monday to Thursday from 4
on Talk Radio.
In this world, it seems now that unless you follow a certain path, you're labelled.
Give it some lip.
Jeremy Kyle on Talk Radio.
Go the extra mile. Drive home with Kyle.
Jeremy Kyle returns. Faster, louder and livelier than ever. Monday, January the 3rd on Talk Radio.
James Whale on Talk Radio.
The meat and potatoes of common sense.
Talk Radio.
Listen online.
Watch live on your smart TV.
James Whale.
Talk radio.
All right, I'm trying to get to the bottom of this, and we do it every week, and still there are idiots who haven't had the vaccine, and they're still ringing me up saying, why are you calling me an idiot? Well, because you are. It's a free choice. I've got the right to do it. Let's go back to the good doctor, who is sitting very patiently and has been talking on the media all day. Yet people who have no knowledge of medicine or read it in books or online think they know better than you and all the other doctors put together, which must be very upsetting, I would have thought, considering all the training you've had to do. But let's just try and dispel a few of these myths, shall we? One of them is that when people say the COVID death rate is, they always use the term died with COVID, and they never say died from COVID. And a lot of people use that as a reason not to get the vaccine. Say, oh, well, they didn't die from COVID, did they? They just happened to have it when they died. They died from something else.
No, not true. So we have, when you write the death certificate, you have the first cause of death, second cause, third cause. And the first cause is, the predominant cause, the sentinel event that led to their death. The other bits would be, whatever the other bits were. So the first cause would be something like this. SARS-CoV-2 infection. Cause of death number 2 would be renal failure. Cause of death number 3, blood clots. So it's in that order, but the first order is telling you what the main thing was, and the other two are what the other things were that were probably related to the cause number 1. And that's always the case. And writing a death certificate is not something you take lightly. I used to write lots of death certificates as a junior doctor, and you thought very hard about it because this is a family document forever and ever. So you just don't write anything that comes to your mind. You think about it very seriously before you put down cause of death, cause number 1.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of people understand that. So I'm glad that you've cleared that up as well. And the other thing that I think a lot of people don't understand is that somebody said to me, you mentioned blood clots. Oh, well, if you get this vaccination, you're really likely to have blood clots. And so then I've had people ring in saying, oh, I've got blood clots and I got the vaccine the other day. The problem is you can get blood clots from almost anything.
Blood clots are common, and they're more common under certain circumstances. So, for example, deep vein thrombosis, when you do a long journey without moving around on that flight or bus coach, that sort of thing. Also, if you are on certain medications, if you are on, for example, the oral contraceptive pill, your chances of blood clots are slightly increased. And of course, one more thing, which is really important for people to understand is if you get COVID disease, your chances of getting blood clots are much higher than if it were through the vaccine. And with respect to blood clots and the vaccine, they've been looking into it and they think, yes, it's an idiosyncratic reaction in some rare, unusual cases in a few people, AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine only. So it is recognized, but it is a rare, unusual, 1 in a million unusual sad event.
What would you say to those people who are listening at the moment, fuming because they believe it's an infringement of their freedom to be told to get a vaccination? They think it's an infringement of their freedom to be told to wear a mask. what would you say to them?
We live in a free society, and you don't know how important a free society is until it is taken away from you. If you really want to know the difference between a free society and a not so free society, think about North Korea and some other Far Eastern countries, where you will get a text in the morning telling you, we know where you are. If you leave that house, we will know you've left that house. You better stay there or else. That's the difference between our free society and other places. With a free society that we live in, we need to cherish it. It also comes with responsibilities. You have to be responsible as part of the free society. Therefore, we do not drink drive. Therefore, we now finally accept seat belts. We accept all those speeding rules, etc. It is still a free society, but you don't carry guns and knives with you. It's part of your responsibility of living in a free society.
I hope people are listening. I mean, you know, we are one of the most open societies, I think, in the entire world, the way we behave. And I also, you know, I don't know how long I'm going to live. I'm quite old anyway. Whether I was ill or not would make no difference. And I quite like not to be locked down. And I realise that Boris is doing his hardest, because there are quite a lot of MPs talking rubbish as well at the moment, but they're being, unfortunately, probably pressed by their constituents. But a lockdown to me, and the way, I mean, it's interesting, people are locking themselves down at the moment and cancelling their reservations and not going out. But, you know, if people take the vaccine, maybe have a lateral flow test when you can get them again quickly, or and check, you know, I think if they go to a place and have a meal and you know, they observe social distancing, or I walk across the road to my local pub and they're only the people I know in it, I think, you know, we can get on with our lives. But unless everybody takes responsibility, somebody the other day said, oh, yeah, but it doesn't stop you passing it on, even if you have the vaccination. Well, actually, I read a paper the other day saying, well, you have a lot less chance of passing it on if you have the vaccine.
That's true. Very true. So let us bust that myth for our viewers and listeners, which is, if you are fully immunized, the duration of your infection is much shorter. And whilst you are infected, your viral shedding is also much, much, much reduced. Therefore, if you are fully immunized, you are protecting yourself and you're protecting your fellow citizens by not being so infectious.
And the other thing I think we should say to people as well is it's okay if you're fairly young, although some young people are getting are more likely to get, I believe, long COVID, which is a pretty nasty thing as well. A lot of younger people seem to have had that. But people who say, well, I'm not at risk, like the bloke we had on earlier, I'm in my 40s, I'm okay. You may not be at risk. You may have COVID so slightly you don't even know that you've got it. But you will pass it on to other people, and you may pass it on to a couple of people who sadly die from it.
Yes,
because
yes.
you were too lazy or too stupid to go and get vaccinated.
It's very true, James, because only a few minutes ago I was giving exactly this information to someone, which was they're making Christmas plans and they're going to elderly parents. And I said, well, what's your lateral flow showing? And he said, it's positive. And I said, which day are you at? He said, day 10. I said, listen to me, please. The government says after day 10, your period of infectiousness is over. You're released from your sequestration, your lockdown. But I said, not everyone is infection free at day 10. You have been diligent in testing at day 10. It's positive. You stay undercover until it goes negative. And that sort of advice we also need to be giving, which is most people are infection free after 10 days, but not everyone. And you should test. And if you test and you know, I mean, and again, the tests are not 100% accurate either, but it's still a step in the right direction.
Last question. What do you think this country would look like, in fact, the world, if we hadn't actually got a vaccine? How would this have played out if everybody had just waited for, you know, the community immunity, if you like?
a lot more people would have died, without a doubt. A lot more. It would be absolute devastation. When I used to plan for pandemic influenza planning, we used to estimate that the worst case scenario was 3% of the people would die, 3% of the cases would die. With COVID, that 3% is exceeded, nearly exceeded. It's about there or exceeded. So it would be pretty devastating. The vaccines have saved many lives and they continue to do so. But one more thing I really want to say about the vaccines is it's not over until it is really over. We're not well until everyone is well. So we, the rich nations, must in 2022 help other countries to also suppress their infections by helping them with the vaccines and their vaccine programs.
Doctor, thank you very much indeed. I hope people will take a little time to think what you've said this evening and maybe reevaluate their positions. For the moment, sir, I wish you the compliments of the season if we don't talk before, and look forward to talking to you in the new year. Thank you very much indeed. Dr. Bharat Pankania, who is Professor of Virology.
Thank you, Bharat. Thank you so much for your time.